Hello, my friends, and welcome back. Thank you very much for being with me again today. A little update, a summary of what's going on the Ukrainian front, and I want to use, as always, a Russian source and a Ukrainian source, and we'll see where they match and where they don't match. So let's start with the Ukrainian one because it has a paragraph. The other one, paragraphs. The other one has only, bullets that you access, and then it's in a form of a map. Just bullets, and you access the bullets, and they tell you what happened in those regions. So let's get going with the Ukrainian article that comes from Ukrainian Forum. It is from today, 28th of February 2023. This was at 8:13 p.m. Kiev time. Now, I suggest these guys change their BS pictures because these guys, you see in the back over there, I don't think they have any more leaves in the trees, if you know what I mean. So maybe they need to change a little bit the pictures. But hey, what do I know? Let's move on. In the past 24 hours, Ukraine's air forces has launched 3 strikes on enemy clusters. The Ukrainian missile and artillery units hit 1 Russian personnel cluster, 1 ammunition and military equipment cluster, and 2 air defense missile system positions. This was reported by the General Staff of the Armed Forces of Ukraine. Russian troops continue focusing efforts on conducting offensive actions in Kupiansk, Liman, Bakhmut, Avdiivka, and Skatarsk direction. I don't see Vuhledar anymore. Now, this is the Russian way of telling us what's going on over there. The same is from the 20th of February 2023. And they are talking about this area here of offensive, where you have the black bullets right there with the AK-47, the automatic weapons. All these things are considered offensive operations right here. These are the Russian names of the cities, so might not sometimes coincide with the Russian names. Like, for instance, here you have Ugledar, and that's Ukrainian for Vuhledar, or Artemovsk, which is, of course, Bakhmut. The Ukrainians, when they start telling us about this little update, they start from here usually, from Chernihiv, Russian Chernigov, and they go down to Sumy, Kharkov, Luhansk, Donetsk, Zaporozhye, and then here is the Kherson. Now, they already stated that the Russians continue their offensive in this area here. This is the line of attack of the offensive. If you see here the blue bullets are where the Ukrainians are focusing their shelling. So all these are Ukrainian attacks using artillery to hit Russian positions. This is in Kherson Oblast here. This is right here. This is the Crimean Peninsula. Now here is where you see the yellow little circles. Those are depending on either, for instance, you see this where they downed some drones. The Russians claimed down the Ukrainian drones, and this is where the Russians shelled in Ukraine. All these red ones, just so you know who's who, what's what. So blue, Ukraine artillery attack. The yellow, Ukrainian attempted whatever drone attack. Then this is where the armies, the forces meet face to face, and then you have these ones where the Russians are hitting or shelling various targets in Ukraine. So let's go to the Ukrainian article. Russian invaders violate the principle of international humanitarian. I'm not going to read this because they always say that. And I'm here for information, not from propaganda, even though I know these kind of things are, exaggerated, minimized, simply lied, ignored. But let's go and see what they can offer us. Over the past day, Russian troops have launched 1 missile strike and 2 airstrikes, and opened fire with multiple launch rocket systems MLRS over 20 times. The threat of Russian missile strikes is persisting all over Ukraine. In the Volyn, Polisia, Siversky and Slobozansky directions, the situation remained rather unchanged. The enemy continues to keep its military units near Ukraine's state border, but no offensive grouping were detected. Now they go down. Over the past day, Russian troops have launched mortar and artillery strikes on the Chernihiv regions. They gave you two settlements, and then Sumy region, I gave you more than that. And you see all this, Sumy and Chernihiv. If I look over the Russian map, nothing happened here according to the Russians. In Kupiansk and Liman directions. Now these are lower, Liman, Kupiansk, this area right here. The invaders conducted offensive actions near the Luhansk regions, Makivka, Nevelsky, and Bilohorivka. Now they're talking about this area right here. Okay, let's see. The enemy launched artillery strikes on the Kharkiv regions, and they give you here Liman, about 5 settlements, the Luhansk regions, Nevsky, Chernovo, Nopopivka, and the Donetsk regions, Spirnie and Fodorivka. So, according to the Ukrainians, the Russians attacked this area here, and if we're just going to go here and see what these guys are saying, in Sinkovka, artillery units of the Zapad group destroyed Ukraine armed forces units. Let's see what this is. The same thing. The same thing. Now, this is what the Ukrainians said, and they did. Ukrainian forces fired 2 HIMARS rockets in the city. And here, Russian air defense shot down a Ukraine drone. And let's say what happened in Stelmakovka. Forces of the Center Group, supported by artillery, struck Ukraine Air Force's troops and military equipment in the course of active combat operations. We go to these ones. Forces of the Tsar, this is the same thing. Let's go to this one. You see here, if this continue to go like this, and if this Bakhmut goes like this, that's gonna be encircled right here. So let's see what's going on here. As the same thing, nothing new. Let's go to Artemovsk, which is Bakhmut. Fighting is going on. The Stupki neighborhood in the north of Artemovsk came under the control of the fighters of the Wagner group. All right, so that's a change over there. Let's see, Avdiivka. Fighting is taking place in the city outskirts. Marinka. Fighting is taking place in the western part of the city. And Ugledar, which is Vuhledar, says fighting is taking place in the city outskirts. Forces of the Vostok group hit Ukraine armed forces units using artillery and airstrikes. These are the supposed offensive operations of the Russians right here. The rest is just shelling one another and sending drones. Now, in the Bakhmut direction, Russian invasion continues storming the city of Bakhmut. Ukrainian defenders repelled enemy attacks near Donetsk region, and they give you about 10 settlements, and it says that came under enemy fire. Nothing changed, according to the Ukrainians. In the Avdiivka and Sakhtarsk direction, Russian troops continue attacking the positions of Ukrainian defenders. The enemy conducted unsuccessful offensive actions towards the Donetsk regions. The enemy shelling was recorded near the Donetsk region, and give you Avdiivka, Vesele, Vodiane. And I don't see any, here is Vuhledar, but no offensive campaign or offensive attacks here. Only shelling, only, if you know what I mean. In the Zaporozhye and Kherson direction. So these are, we moved south here. So this is Zaporozhye, and this right here is Kherson. Let's see what the Ukrainians are telling us. Russian occupiers are holding defense. In certain areas, the enemy is attempting to create conditions for the offensive. Russian troops launched artillery strikes on the Donetsk region, Vremivka, Zelene Pole, and Novopil. The Zaporozhye regions, and they give you here like 7 settlements, and the Kherson regions, Zelenivka and Kherson, so shelling. In Zaporozhye regions and Nerhodar, Russian occupiers continue putting pressure on local residents, namely through heat and hot water supply restrictions. after mass dismissals, there is a lack of professionals at Zaporozhye nuclear power plant, and Russians have to hire people without proper education and experience. I doubt that, and I will tell you why. Lately, in the temporarily occupied area of Kherson region, namely the city of Olesky, Russian invaders have started to loot more frequently. Okay. Now, why do I doubt that? Is because the Russians also have an education system. They also have people that are trained, and they also have nuclear power plants. And this is no different than they have, because this was built by during the Soviet Union time, which, if you remember, the Russians, the Ukrainians, all those guys were lumped together. So let's see what the Russians are saying about Ukrainian attacks here. Probably it's going to be the same thing everywhere. Ukrainian forces fired 4 shells at the village using barrel artillery. Ukrainian forces shelled the village using barrel artillery. They fired a total of 4 shells. The same thing, nothing special here, just the shelling. Let's see what the Russians say about Kamyan, these 2 locations here in Kherson Oblast. Russian artillery units destroyed the Ukrainian Grad multiple rocket launcher along which is ammunition. 3 Ukraine armed forces soldiers were killed, and the other one, let's say, and 2 were wounded. So there's shelling over there. So this is what, nothing else, just here. Shelling, the offensive occurs here, not a big offensive. According to Ukrainians, the Russians brought some more behind the front, waiting to probably, add to the whole offensive, which is, I don't know how important this is, because if the Ukrainians put all their troops behind this, to stop the Russians' offensive over there, then obviously this is going to be slowed down. But then once the Russians could, put the new troops over there, then things could change. What I mean, the new ones going back or going to the front. We'll find out, but it's not something extraordinary, I can tell you that. The same five fronts. The Russians try to advance. I think they will be able to advance in Bakhmut and in Liman area, so they will surround and encircle the Ukrainians over there if they don't get the hell out. I covered another article, actually I think there were 2, with the situation in Bakhmut, where the Russians said that they control the ins and outs in Bakhmut, control in a way that they can shell whatever they want. So that means they are under fire. The city is almost encircled. That's over there. If Bakhmut falls, people say, well, nothing. People on Ukrainian side, oh, nothing, it's okay, it's not a big deal. But on the other hand, they put everything they got over there. All right, this is a short summary of what's going on over there, according to these 2 liars. Thank you very much for being with me again today. Stay strong, stay smart, look for the truth, and be just.